Hi everyone, welcome. We're here at my farm at Little Farmhouse Flowers, and I'm going to share some information with you today about lily hybridizing and propagating. We're going to look at both of these things. The first thing that we're going to talk about is cloning and propagating through use of the bulbs. There are a couple of different ways that you can propagate or clone lily bulbs. One way is through tissue culture, and in that process, a hybridizer with, say, a new variety of lily that they've grown from seed will break off some parts of the lily or send a part of the bulb or even the full bulb, if they're willing to risk it, to a lab, and those cells will be multiplied into many, many more bulbs. So this is the fastest way for a lily breeder to multiply a bulb. They can go from one bulb to thousands within a single year, which is pretty interesting, all through cloning. So basically, the scales are removed from the lily, everything is cleaned and sanitized. It's put into a special environment that encourages the growth of lots more lilies from the genetic material that is already in the bulb. Now, another process that is also very effective for multiplying bulbs, and something that we can do at home, is called scaling. For scaling, you're actually going to remove the scales of a lily bulb and allow them some time to sit. And during that time, where the scale was attached to the basal plate of the bulb, and there's still some of the basal plate attached to the bottom of the scale, new bulblets will form. It's pretty amazing. So basically, we take all the scales off. This is a common method for multiplying bulbs in the Netherlands too. Remove all the scales. This is very simple. You can do this at home if you have little ones, if you have kids. Kind of satisfying too. You just need to make sure that the bottom of the scale is still there, that you're not just breaking off the tips of it. If you want to hold on to a bulb, say you only have a few bulbs for a certain variety, or you have a hybrid that you've made, you wouldn't want to remove all of the scales. You'd want to leave some of them, and that way you could encourage an earlier flower or the same bulb to flower again the next year. But if we're just trying to multiply, we can peel this off. You can see there's so many of them. We add the scales to peat. So this is straight peat. We buy ours right down the road at the lumber yard, hardware store. They sell ProMix. They also sell some straight peat, and we'll mist it with a little bit of water, just a few sprays from a water bottle, and put them in these vented plastic bags. These are vented liner bags. We get them from Globe Bag. I think they're located right in Massachusetts. They're pretty inexpensive, fast shipping. We use them a lot for our wholesale bulb company at Ampersand. I'll just open one of these up so you can see what happens. So we put the peat and those scales with a little bit of moisture inside these bags, and then we put them in a cool space. And for us, that's our barn. In the wintertime, it's about 40 degrees. In the summertime, it's about 60, 65 degrees, and we just leave them. We walk away. Sometimes we peek on them a little bit, but we leave them for a few weeks, and they generate new bulbs all over those scales. It's really pretty amazing. So here, I'm going to pull some out for you so you can see what this looks like. These are all little baby bulblets, and they're growing together through their roots, but here we can pull some off so you can see them right on the edge of the scale, right along the bottom, along the basal plate, two nice little bulbs. So this is a really nice way to multiply a favorite bulb if you have one that's hard to find. Here's a nice big bulblet that's been growing in here for a little while. This is so exciting. If they start to sprout, you start to see it like a little sprout or a leaf coming off the bulb, you want to make sure that you plant them right away. And the next step is to take these bulblets, and you can either plant them like this, the whole scale in the ground or in a crate, or you can remove them and plant them individually as little bulbs. So that works too. So the next step is to plant them. So set these aside. So this is a variety of lily that we were hoping to bring in a whole bunch more of for Ampersand, and we were only sent one crate. So we decided to work on multiplying it ourselves. They won't be ready for a couple years, but then we'll have some. So the next step is to plant all the bulblets into some growing medium. This is ProMix, and you want to add some long-term fertilizer too so that they have some energy. These are getting a little bit yellow, so we need to add some fertilizer to these. These have been growing in this crate since the springtime. We started them in here where they got a little bit of a head start, and then we moved them outside once threat of frost was gone. I'm going to pull some up so you can see how big the bulbs are because I think it's pretty cool. This is a double oriental that we've been cloning. Get in here. Try to find some of these bulbs without breaking them off. They formed a nice thick root mat. In this crate, there are about 100 little bulblets. And after this winter, here we go, we will separate these bulblets. Broke the foliage. There, you can see, pardon me, Lily. That wasn't a great thing to do, but you can see how large the bulb is. We'll do it for the sake of science, right? So you can see what's going on. So it has now its own scales, and it's a pretty good size little bulb. I'd say it's about a size 8 bulb. Very cool. I'll put this back in here. And these are just going to experience the rest of the summer and the fall. We're going to let the foliage die back, and we're going to make sure that they have a nice winter, whether that's outside, just in their crate, maybe with a little bit of cover for protection in the wintertime. We might put, a piece of landscape fabric over them or some frost cloth, but we get good snow cover here, so they should be fine. Or we could put them in our shipping container where we can make sure that they'll get a nice, cold winter so that they know when it's time to wake up and grow again. So really fun. This is the sort of thing you'll see in the Netherlands at the farms that are propagating and growing lilies. They have to be grown in stages in order for them to get to cut flower size. And this is one of those in-between stages. So pretty cool. So we'll divide these up in the winter and replant them probably about 50 to a crate and let them grow on next season. And then the following season after that, it would be even fewer, like 25 to a crate, so that we can nurture them onto like cut flower size. We have our crates like this all lined up outside, and we did grow them under some shade cloth. Lilies don't love super hot temperatures, so the shade cloth helps to tone things down a little bit for them. All right, I'm going to set these aside. These are bags, and we have more and more bags of these in the barn of a favorite variety of lily that I'm so happy to be multiplying. And that whole process of scaling and removing the bulblets is very similar to what happens naturally underground. We're just kind of giving it a boost. Rather than leaving the lily bulbs in the ground and letting them divide over time, removing those scales triggers each one of them to begin to grow new bulbs. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're just kind of fast tracking things. Another way to multiply lilies with bulblets is with lancifolium varieties, tiger lily varieties. So this is Floriplano. I love this lily. It's a double tiger lily, pollen free, with this salmon color and pretty chocolate purpley spots. I'm just obsessed with it. I wish there were more lilies like this in more colors. This is a tiger lily, and you'll see all along the stem, little bulblets are forming right where the leaves meet the stem. These will get larger. I've picked this stem, so it's not going to do much for us, but if I had left it on the bulb and let it continue to grow and let the flowers expire, all of these little bulblets would continue to grow, and we could peel them off. I just peeled one off, and it already has a little tiny root attached to it, and they can be planted to grow more tiger lilies. So I think that's pretty cool. All right, we're gonna look now at hybridizing our own new lily varieties. In order to create a new lily variety, you need to mix two together. So I have cut some lilies for us for this demonstration. Ordinarily, you wouldn't need to cut them to mix them because we're just taking the pollen from one plant and adding it to the pistil of another plant. So let's see, I have some pretty Candy Club lilies here, and let's treat these as if they're going to be the mother plant. The first thing that you're going to want to do is go around and remove the pollen from the mother plant so it doesn't accidentally pollinate itself. You just remove those. It's best to do this before they get fluffy. That's the best way to really prevent the self-pollination. Boop. And lilies have a very large sticky pistil. It's easy to see when you have put pollen on it. So that's something that's really nice. This is an OT lily, and OT stands for Oriental Trumpet. Another popular variety of lily for forcing are the LA lilies, or the Longiflorum Asiatic lilies. Longiflorum also means trumpet. Why they didn't use the same name, I'm not really sure, but LA lilies are crosses between Asiatic lilies and trumpet lilies, and OT lilies are crosses between Oriental lilies and trumpet lilies. And the reason that trumpet lily is in both of those equations is because trumpet lilies have very nice, fluffy pollen. And that's something that you need in order to get a nice cross. So we're going to use this lily over here. This is Tarango, and we're just going to take some of the pollen from this plant. You can pick it off right like that and just rub it right on the pistil of the candy club. So the candy club is the mother, Tarango is the father. A couple more. You could also try this cross the other way. If I took the candy club pollen that I removed before and put it on the pistil of the Tarango and got rid of the other pollen so that it wouldn't self-pollinate. Pretty neat, right? And that's about it. So these plants, if I was doing this for actually getting seeds, I leave them growing, I don't harvest them, and I pollinate them, and I let the flowers run their course. After the flowers fade, they'll dry up. You'll see that a seed pod will start to form if you've had a successful pollination, and that'll be a nice plump seed pod. If you have not had successful pollination, it'll be skinny and narrow, and it won't look like it's about to burst. You'll know. If it's pregnant, you'll know because it looks really fat and juicy. Then you're just going to let those seed pods dry right on the stalk, especially if you have a space like this where you can keep your plants covered so they won't get soggy. And then you can remove them and open them up and harvest the seeds. Seeds for lilies are like little flat discs. They kind of look like the seeds for a lunaria plant. If you're familiar with planting money plant, they're kind of like that, but a little smaller. They're flat discs. And there are a few different ways that they like to be germinated. It depends upon the type of mix that you're making. Most lilies are classified as epigeel or hypogeel, and there's also some double hypogeel. Epigeel lilies, like Asiatic lilies and trumpet lilies and tiger lilies, are easier to germinate from seed. We can germinate them under conditions that we're used to. We can put them in cell trays or with some soil, moist soil, and keep them about 70 degrees, about room temperature, and we can see germination in a couple of weeks from those types of lily seeds. Hypogeel lilies need to have a cold period of about 3 months at about 40 degrees. Those are lilies like Oriental lilies and Martagon lilies. So we germinate the seeds a little bit differently depending upon the type of cross that we're making. I'm going to give you some resources to look more into this if you get into hybridizing and you're not sure what type of seed you're producing. We started our epigeel lily seeds in cell trays in this space late last summer, and they germinated within a couple of weeks. When lilies germinate, you'll see a thin, narrow leaf appear first. It looks almost like a blade of grass. So don't be alarmed. Don't think that you have a weed growing and pluck them all out. Those are actually your lily seeds germinating. And then for our hypogeel lily seeds, for us, those were Martagon seeds. I put them in Tupperwares with some Pro Mix and a little bit of moisture. And I just set the seeds along the top, snap the lid on. I labeled the lids. The label is wearing off on this one, but you can see they're just inexpensive Tupperwares from the grocery store. And then these all went into our cooler, and I just left them in the cooler. I forgot about them. We got through bulb shipping season, and then I thought, I'll go check on the Martagon seeds and see if anything happened. I go in there, and they've all sprouted inside. It was pretty awesome. So then I took the Tupperwares, and I plucked out the little seedlings and I planted them into small pots, like 4-inch pots to get things started, and kept them over the winter time and just let them grow a little bit in my basement. This summer, we took all of those little 4-inch pots and we bumped them up to give them more space. So unlike our scaling projects where we're just multiplying varieties that we already have and know, we wanted to give these guys some special treatment. So let me bring a few of them over here and we can lift them up out of the pots so you can see what they look like. All right, so here are some of the seedlings that we've started. We have here an Asiatic hybrid, and Asiatics can even come to flower in their first season, and you can see that this one has a bud. So we're going to learn what this one looks like this season, the first summer after starting the seed, which I think is pretty cool. So I'm really excited about that one. And then we have some lilies that are going to take a little bit longer. And these ones are mixes, also epigeel lilies, but they just need a little more time in order to put up their first stem. So they're growing in these 1-gallon pots with Pro Mix. And I'm going to take this one out so you can see. It's really filling out the full pot nicely. Beautiful white roots. And let me see if I can expose some of the bulb so you can see it. There we go. Here's the top of the bulb. It's a cute little pink bulb. It has a number of its own scales and just growing on totally happily in here. As you know, lilies are a water-loving plant. You really can't let lilies dry out. So that's something that we're careful of here in our greenhouse. We want to make sure that they don't get dried out. And having enough space for each plant in a pot helps us make sure that they do okay. Here's what a martagon seedling looks like. Martagons really need a nice cold winter in order to take off. So we're not going to see much action from this one until it has a winter. So we can either give that to them artificially now, or we can just wait. The seasons are going to change here. Things are going to die back. And we can put all of our pots and all of our crates of lilies into an unheated greenhouse or even outside, maybe with a little bit of frost cloth to prevent them from getting, wind burned or from the extremes of the weather that we have here. And then they'll come back next spring and summer once they've had a nice long winter. And it's so cute to see how different their leaves are, right? These are very round leaves. And this one is a Nomocharis lily. This is a sort of an exotic, rare lily from East Asia, I think. And it's one that I bought seed for and I'm starting from seed. I have 4 of the plants that germinated and only one of them that really took off. The other couple are struggling, but maybe they'll be doing better after they have a winter also. But I'm also really excited about this one. All right. I think that is about it. You'll have to let me know if you have any questions about the information that I shared now, or check out some of these great resources. You'll find a lot of information about lilies from the North American Lily Society. They also publish this great book that is illustrated. It's really adorable. And it talks all about the different kinds of lilies, how to propagate them, how to grow them, how to care for them, how to pollinate them, make your own seeds, everything like that. So all of that information. And it's also a really nice gardening club to be a part of. So they have a show every summer. You can go and see how hobbyists are growing lilies and breeding lilies all over North America. What's most fascinating about their show for me is seeing how they transport their blooming flowers to this conference wherever it is in the country or in Canada. They actually travel with dehydrated blooming flowers that they put in boxes and ship to the conference location and then rehydrate. And that is a pretty amazing thing to see. I was shocked to learn that that's how lilies are sent to these different conferences. They dehydrate them, they lay them all flat in a box, and then they send them, rehydrate them, and they look amazing. They look beautiful. Another great resource is the North Star Lily Society. This is a lily society in Minnesota. Lilies are really popular in Minnesota, and martagons especially, because martagons are cold climate lovers. So there are some great resources available at northstarlilysociety.com, things that you can download, lots of information and research that is available to you right on their website. All right, well, thanks for joining me. I hope that you found this interesting and informative, and I hope that you're encouraged to go and try propagating some lilies. Definitely start with scaling. It's very fun to do, and if you have some lilies blooming that you want to try mixing together, go for it and see what comes of it. Remember that trumpet lilies are some of the best for pollinating. Trumpet lilies are typically larger flowers with large, sort of downward facing bells. They're not my favorite as a designer, but there are some varieties that are available with upward facing flowers. We're introducing the Planet series to our collection at Ampersand Bulb Co. So that's White Planet, Pink Planet, Orange Planet. There's also a Yellow Planet, although we're not offering that one this year. And these are all upward facing trumpet lilies. So they have that nice characteristic for design work and for breeding, and they have the nice big fluffy pollen. So they're kind of a jackpot. All right, everybody. Thanks again, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.